every single week we decide to take this 1 hour to really come together, to learn from one another, and to really just empower that lion energy that we got. I'm out here, out in Tampa, from my home today. Got my spotlight on since it's really, really dark behind me, but just wanted to come from a home vibe today with all the good energy. I hope everyone's been doing good. I see you, Billy. I see you, Dan. Good to see you, my man. DJ Newman's in the house, of course. Keyshawn. We got Lou coming in. JC, always good to see you as well, too. As Lions start to come in, we'll get going, because I just want to welcome everybody to the call this week, another week, but a very powerful week that I think is going to be very insightful for all of us to really take control and power of. You know, last week we talked a lot about the power of no and what that means to actually say no versus saying yes, because we love to say yes so often, but we sometimes feel empty inside because we always give our sources and our resources out and not always feel that same comfortability that we deserve in the sense of saying no, right? We looked into the ratio. There was a couple steps that we gave. The ratio. Remember Richard Branson's quote? He gets 100 opportunities and he says 99 no's before he says that one yes. So having a ratio was the first key that we looked into. The second one was clearing the clutter. Clearing the clutter in our minds. We sometimes get so consumed with all the shit that's going through our minds, business, personal, family, this. Sometimes we got to clear our focus and get focused, I should say. Clear the clutter and get focused. The example that I brought up last week about the monkeys, the apes, and the people that would take them to their horrible death, but at the end of the day, they would still hold on to that banana. So what shit are you holding on to, and what shit can you release now so that you can feel better? And of course, the last and third one was my favorite, which was the pain. Pain is the root, gentlemen. If you don't go through pain, you are not going to get the results that you deserve, because there's going to be another man that's willing to put up with that pain, and he's going to get it before you. And that's where we got to still understand our instinctive energy, as I always reference the animal kingdom and the lions, of course. But I want to just check in. I just want to see who's in there. Tristan, I see you, my man. It was very good seeing you on the weekend. Dominic as well, too. A couple of you guys that joined us this last weekend. We were out here in Tampa, here at my building downtown on Water Street, and we chopped it down with about 10, 15, about 15 of us. It was an incredible event last Saturday. It was really just, I would say maybe we can hear from a couple of them towards the end, but it was very different because I go to a lot of events. I've spent a lot of money at events, but to take an intimate group of guys and bring them together and really empower leadership, I was the speaker talking about communication. We had Cullen come in and talk about business and sales, selling high ticket in the world that we live in. And then we had my coach, Dr. Ray, come in, and he made everybody do push-ups and everybody get ready. And it was just fire. But just to understand the level of what it takes to be a powerful leader, because this last weekend was all about leadership mastery. And the three components that make a man a leader, a real powerful leader, comes down to the communication that you have, both self and to others. It's about the actual business acumen and being able to go and generate income for yourself, to make money. And of course, the most important one, and I say this last because it's been my journey, but it is actually technically first, which is your health. Being able to understand that we have a body that we need to train as men every single day, and each day that we don't, we are not doing our duty, was the final lesson that we learned in that incredible mastermind. So for those of you that were there, incredible. For those of you that didn't, get ready for the next one. But I really wanted to talk today about something that came up throughout the questionnaires, throughout a lot of stuff that I know Billy's going to really love, because Billy's an expert in this game. But it's understanding the questions. The questions that we ask during the week are so crucial. Inside the community, in the text messages, we want to learn from you guys and also understand what it is that you're actually struggling on and what could really move the needle in your world. Now, this week, when we decided to do some questionnaires, finances came up quite a lot. Understanding your financial well-being, being able to tap into the game of finances. And finances, yes, can look like a lot of different things. That term is very broad. It could look at the economy. It could look at how much money is in your bank account. It could be the planning that you have for one day, that day that you pass on. There could be a lot of different ways, but today I wanted to break this down because I want to give some statistics. And before I begin, I just want to make sure that everybody's in the room. We got everyone. JC, make sure if anybody else is coming in, just make sure we're letting them in. I want to just really preset why we do this every single week, because I like to make that an importance of why we're going to jump in and talk about finances, wealth, real estate, relationships, communication, leadership, all these incredible topics is because we focus on three simple words here. Three simple but most powerful words: brotherhood, blessings, and breakthroughs. The brotherhood between men, the blessings from above, and the breakthroughs that you may get on this call or dialing into the community and consistently wanting to seek for that breakthrough. Today was very interesting because I looked at some statistics. I wrote some statistics down. How financially stable are you in today's world? Now, if I were to ask that as a general scale to everybody right now, just start thinking about that answer. How financially stable are you in today's world? Now, what does stable mean? Let's break this down. Let me give you some statistics. On average, a person in America right now has $8,000 in savings. $8,000 in savings. The average spend of a family household income is $6,000. And of course, I can talk about income and say how much the average income is, but for today's purposes, as Grant would say, just 10x your income, just 10x your income. I'm going to remove income out of the equation. Today, we're going to go a little bit deeper into the words of understanding finance. And I want to bring this value to you guys because I want to see where you are in terms of the health of your finances. Now, when I say it doesn't matter about the income, let's go back to those numbers. 8K in rough savings, and on average, $6,000 to run a household. Now, you might be saying, well, Jay, I spend a lot more than that in a month. And maybe some of you are saying, well, you know what? I actually spend a lot less than that. Regardless, if you start to think of that from even a half scale perspective, that means the average person could only really survive maybe a month, 2, at most 3, with just the savings they have. Now let's decode this a little bit more. How organized do you feel you are financially? Like if you had to rate yourself from 1 to 10, 10 being like, I know every single dollar that moves within my life, in my world. And 1 being like, yeah, I don't even know the last time I even logged into my bank account. Now, when we start to understand this, I want you to go back to that same question of how long could you survive? If you know roughly what you expense and you know roughly what you make, how many months could you survive before it went under, before you had to figure out a very interesting situation to pivot? And I wanted to start like that because we have to all understand one thing. It doesn't matter what level of finances or what level of money or net worth that you are at. Today's not about showing you the numbers and how they can accumulate, which we could definitely do. But today's about really understanding the work that goes into the back end of understanding your own finances and being able to how to take control over that. And I share this because I want this to be a wake-up call. I want this to be a wake-up call for a lot of us that are sitting there going like, how many months could I actually survive? And what would I do next? Have we thought about these questions? Have we opened these questions up? Now, the interesting thing is my story that I want to share with you is it was about 2015, 2016. It was when the Alberta sell-off happened. Oil just plummeted. It was like a huge Alberta sell-off, like oil just tanked. And we were in Alberta, of course, so it affected us a lot. I'm sure Texas got hit in most of those industries, but it was crazy to see such a downturn. 2008, 2009 was, of course, the housing crisis. But every 5 to 7 years, gentlemen, remember, there's some sort of economical downturn, and that's been traced back from 1920s. Every 5 to 7 years, there's some sort of financial setback. So after 08, 09 happened, 15, 16, it was about 14 it started, and about 16 kind of it went through that Alberta sell-off or the oil sell-off caused such a huge detriment in the economy. Now, in that position, in my side of things, I was getting involved with a lot of different educations. I was doing my accounting. I was doing a few different things. But one specific place that I plugged into was my mentor, Richard Dolan, who at the time was just breaking apart from his company, his head company, Rain, and creating his own company called Legacy Global. That was to certify people, as people would get certified as a realtor or insurance broker, to certify people as what we call a financial life professional. And this certification came down to understanding the basics of finances and helping people properly protect themselves and get organized, and then refer out to professionals like Billy, to professionals like the realtors, to professionals like the mortgage brokers, where they are licensed to do so. This accreditation gave you the ability to understand how to organize finances for clients and put them together. Now, where does this get interesting? this gets interesting because I love education. I love education my way. Whether it was the hard lessons that I had to learn sitting in jail cells and dealing with drug lords in my teens, whether it was the experience in my 20s of being able to build real estate companies that were in the millions of dollars and transacting millions in my mid 20s. Maybe it was when my 30s now coming out to the US to completely start brand new business in a brand new town, not knowing anybody, and being able to show how you can scale to 8 figures. Whatever I decided to do, what I realized was the education was the most important thing. And the slap in the face, the real slap in the face, came that year in that economic crash. In that 2015, 2016 year, when I was getting certified as a financial life professional through Legacy Global, there was 3 very key pieces of advice and knowledge that I learned that I want to bring to you guys today. And I want you guys to get very clear on these 3 sectors of financial understanding. Literacy, we're going to talk about. Understanding is one thing, but these 3 get into depth with what you need to keep yourself in check with and always constantly be revisiting that. Again, I always like to bring up Billy in this situation because Billy understands this from an insurance perspective. He's helping families on a daily basis understand how to prepare and how to plan when it comes to these things. Now, when we understand that, let's now start to peel that back. What are those 3 things that we need to keep ourselves in check with and consistently, repeatedly, always be revisiting those? The first one is financial intentionality. The second one is financial preparedness. And the third one is financial responsibility. And when I say responsibility, I mean response ability, the ability to respond. And we're going to decode that. But when we look at finances, gentlemen, what's so crazy about the world that we live in is that we're not taught finances in education systems. I have friends that have master's degrees in business and in finance and still don't know how to balance their own books. Because the world doesn't want you to understand and learn what it takes for you to actually beat the system. Now, you can hear this all over TikTok, you can hear this all over memes, and you can hear this all over shit, but it's the real hard truth. So they throw stuff at you like savings, investments, passive, earned, annuities, equity, debt, credit. Oh my God, credit. The system designed to make you poor. We're throwing all this terminology and literacy at us, but it doesn't really matter. Even if you learn the literacy, even if you learn the language, that's not going to move the needle in your personal world. What could you tangibly, actionably do to understand that it's not about that terminology and literacy, it's about the action steps that you can take even on this call. I'm going to break this down and give you guys actionables that you can take on this call. Because when we come to this statement of most of us don't plan to fail, but most of us fail to plan. We've heard that before, haven't we? Now let's break down financial intentionality for the first one. When we are thinking about the intention of why we want finances, the first couple things that are going to come up to our mind are, of course, well, I want a nice house. I need a nice car. I want some good clothes. And I need to be able to just be a good, I need to appear like I'm good. Because a good house and a car and some clothes on makes me look like I've done it. You know, depending on now what car I'm driving, depending on what a house I'm living with, it's giving me that parameter of, yes, I've made it to a certain point. I can actually self-sustain myself. Then what happens is that then we start to go into a different thought pattern because the intentionality goes, okay, well, what if I have that now? What if I have a house and I have a car and I got clothes? Now what's next? Well, now it's more about, no, it's about family, right? It's about building a home now, a home, which is different than a house, of course, a home. And then it's like the luxuries in life, you know, like buying a nice watch and, you know, upgrading the car and being able to go out and take the wifey out for dinner and vacations and doing this kind of stuff. But then what happens when you achieve that too? What happens when you're in full control of your time and you get to spend time with family and you got the luxuries and everything? Then you start getting to a different thought pattern of intentionality. Then it becomes peace. Then it becomes freedom. Then it becomes true happiness. So when we start to understand intentionality, I want us to really focus on what is it that I'm intentional about? And why do I want that? If I want a nice car or I want a big house, for what? Do I actually need the space? Or am I looking at it from a different perspective because it's going to show a certain caliber. Like I live in a 10,000 square foot house, but all I really need is 2,000 square feet of what I normally do. Pareto's principle, 80-20. Look at your house right now. You probably spend majority of your time in your house in about 20%. The living room, bathroom, maybe a little bit of the kitchen. The rest of the house doesn't really get used. So when we start to figure this out now, and we start to think about this, I want us to write this down. I want us to actually write down your intentionality. And you know what I'm going to do for all the members of VIP? JC, can you make comment on this or make note on this, please? We're going to send out a little like 2-3 page. I have a little 2-3 page that I want to send out all to the VIPs. It's going to be a part of the in the community. That way they can just fill out the sheets, make it easier instead of just writing it down on a piece of paper. It'll give you a little bit more like to know exactly like these categories, right? Like what is it that's driving you? Is it driving you to having stacks of cash and driving those cars? Let's get deeper into that. What is it, the real peace, value, happiness that you're actually searching? And how can we define that? That's intentionality, gentlemen. Very, very powerful to start with the intentionality. Now, the second one gets a little bit deeper now. This gets a little bit darker because financial preparedness is something that nobody really thinks about. And Billy, I know you're shaking your head on this because you can agree with me for sure that heavy majority, don't ever think about being prepared. We always just react when it happens. Something happened, holy shit, now I got to, my this broke, now I got to figure out how to pay it. I got to put it on a credit card. We don't actually prepare before, we just react after it happens. And we're instinctive. It's instinctive to be humans like that. But when I break down financial preparedness, I go back to the question that I asked at the beginning of the call. How long can you survive? Are you preparing for that? Are you preparing for that 3rd month, 4th month, 2nd year that you wouldn't be able to function anymore? Your retirement would expire. Your savings would be gone. No passive income that can actually supplement that. Then we get a little bit deeper because then we go back to those reaction things. Maybe it's a death in a family member. Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe it's a divide, business partners. Something happens, you lose out on assets, lose out on worth. These are unforeseen and unpredictable circumstances that we don't prepare for. Now, you might be looking at me and going like, Jay, come on. Like, Jay, you're Mr. Positivity over here, man. Like you're talking about, but you have to always make sure that you hope for the best. And I don't really like using the word hope. You trust for the best, I should say, and prepare for the worst. Because you always want to set those parameters in place of when those deaths are going to occur. Who's going to pay for the funeral? You know, when mom or dad pass away and you get that phone call at 3 a.m. and your mom's dead, like, are you going to be the one that goes, oh, where's the bottle? I need to slam some alcohol and forget about this. Or are you going to be like, okay, I'm in a good financial means. I can take care of this. We're going to have to handle this. My family's going to need me right now. I'm going to show up. I don't want financial burdens on any of my family members. I want us to mourn our loss the right way. Right? It's a very interesting when you start to actually put the emotions now behind some of the things that you actually need to be prepared for. And then, of course, the worst one. And when I say the worst one, I mean, this is something that nobody prepares for. Have you prepared for your own death? Like, have you prepared for the day that God decides to say, hey, buddy, it's time to come up and come see me now? Are you preparing for that day? Have you prepared for that day? Do you have a policy in place that could take care of the debts that you will owe after you pass away to the family members that are going to mourn your loss? Do you have a book? And when I say a book, I'm not talking about wills and asset protection and trusts and going into a will and estate planning. As much as we could talk about those components, because I'm involved in those and I like those, and there's a lot of good structures around those, I'm just talking about just a book. I'm talking about like if I died right now on this spot right here, something happened and I had a heart attack, how are they going to shut down my Instagrams? How are they going to go into my emails? How are they going to go into my bank accounts? How are they going to go into 97,000 logins that I have saved? Do they know all my passwords? Do they know where to access things? Do they know where I've put my luxury goods, my watches? Do they know the combination to my safe? Who's going to take that over? And have I thought and prepared to that yet? See, we don't, again, think of this until it's too late and we have somebody pass away and then we're like, oh my God, how are we going to do this now? How are we going to, and then we're in an emotional state of mind that's not giving us clarity. Now we're thinking out of emotion. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Yeah, let's try to figure it out. Let's go to the bank. Let's do this. It's so much uncertainty. Why get yourself there? That's why when you get even a simple book put together of login information, of certain directions, it doesn't need to be as crazy as a will. Doesn't need to be going and spending thousands of dollars at a lawyer to do an estate plan based on all the assets you own. If you're at that level, by all means, you got to do it. We have structures in place. We got trusts in place. We got all of our asset protection ready to go. I know my dad has been able to provide me a certain lifestyle in my life, and I know what's happening with the business and the assets of just intergenerational. But I'm also thinking, what am I going to do? What's going to happen when I'm married? What's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen if right now I were to go? Well, my life insurance policies. I got 3 policies right now. Billy, you'd be proud of that right there. Yeah. Because I got to protect. I got to protect what's going to happen if, God forbid, it were to happen. Now, the last one is the interesting one. The last one is financial responsibility. And as I mentioned, responsibility is the ability to respond correctly. So looking at the ways and understandings of the responsibility that you have to your own financial future. We're sitting here and we're like, yo, I got to make more money, man. I got to do this. I always say, everyone's like coming up to me, yo, I want to make $100,000. Like, you haven't even calculated what that is daily. You don't even have a product that can suffice that. And you're sitting here having a hopeless dream of $100,000 a month, but you don't even have a product that can actually quantify that on a 365-day scale. So it doesn't really add up. We're lost in a lot of this because we don't have the right financial responsibility to understanding where are we at? Like, where am I at? Where do I want to go? And then do I need to find somebody to help me? Do I need to sit down with Billy and have a conversation and say, Billy, like, where am I at? Like, I do have this mortgage on my house and I didn't even realize I don't even have mortgage insurance. So it's like, if I die today, like, that $400,000 goes straight to my wife. So by the time she's mourning for my loss, she's going to be taking that on going like, how am I going to do? I got to sell the house. And then what is going to happen? So long story short, where I want to go into this was financial responsibility. Keys to this is daily and weekly check-ins when it comes to your financial bank accounts. This is such a simple thing that is so overlooked. It's incredible. I ask people all the time, when's the last time you checked? They're like, yeah, like a couple of weeks ago, man. I'm like, how the hell do you go a couple of weeks? It's like, yeah, man, I checked at the beginning of the week. I'm like, I still don't like it because you have to be in front of it. You got to be checking that daily. You got to be seeing that. Some of you guys are so embarrassed by your bank account, you don't even want to fucking open it up. You're like, I don't even want to log in. I don't want to see that shit. And like, which login do I do? Which negative credit card do I want to see? I don't want to see that, but you need to see that. You need to be punched in the face every single day, because if you ain't looking at it, you're not taking the responsibility. You're in this hopeless dream thinking that I want to make all this money and it's going to pay it all back and then I'm going to be all good so I can pay off all this credit card. But instead, you haven't even taken the first measure and step to being able to be in check with yourself. When we get into this now, I want a simple exercise for you guys. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this all the time. Very simple. Don't overcomplicate it, right? The 4 quadrants is one thing of understanding where you're at. We talked about that. Are you an employee? Are you self-employed? Are you a business owner? Or are you an investor? That's the ways that you can be generating income. That's a quadrant. Place yourself. Figure out which quadrant you need to be at. Give yourself a plan and a measurable. But Robert Kiyosaki also talks about something very simple to map out your statements. Assets, liabilities, income, expenses. A giant T-chart. Top left, what do I own? What do I own? What do I own? Do I have a house? Do I have a car? What do I own? Do I got jewelry? Do I got anything that's worth something that's valuable enough? Even if you really want to quantify like your home and furniture and certainly you put a little, that's what I own. That's what I'm worth here right there. That's my assets. Liabilities, what do you owe? Simple, what do you owe? I owe this much credit card. I owe this student loan, whatever it is. Oh, income. How much did I make last month? How many people, I will tell you, don't even calculate their income? They get paychecks every single month, every single biweekly. They don't even calculate how much tax is actually going out. If I asked you guys right now, how much tax are you paying on exactly your paycheck right now? Majority of you wouldn't even know the exact calculation. You'd be like, bracket is like this. Like I pay like 20, 30, 33%. But you don't know exactly the figures and the dollars that are exactly leaving your account. And then lastly here is the expenses. Expenses, write down the expenses, write down all the freaking Netflix subscriptions, yes. All the nights out, everything, yes. The expenses. What are your expenses every single month? How are you managing those? How are you understanding? And most of us will focus 90% because that list is so big. Our income is only like 2 lines here, right? And then the rest is all expenses on it. So if the rest is all expenses, we're like, the only way we can do this, gentlemen, the only way we're going to be successful is if we cut expenses. So we should live below our means. We should cut expenses, and then we can start saving. And that's where income will support that, and more income and product lines and business and everything else that we do is the solution to that. But the last thing I wanted to say was having protection. Having protection is responsibility, because as men on this call, we want families. We have families. For those that have children on the call, for those that have a wife, we're looking at understanding your family, understanding the responsibility that you have to them every single day. You know, in my relationship, and this is another little update, gentlemen, for those that, you know, pay attention to my personal life as well too. You know, my relationship has been in an interesting situation, but we've decided to start to work on things and be able to commit to the growth of actually understanding one another. And even when I start to see that in the future and think of a wife that I'm going to marry and be able to have kids eventually, I'm thinking about, what is her asset protection? What, does she have policies on her? Where is she going? What would we do for our children? I gave my sisters this advice. I was like, and I sent it to a couple of people that have little children, but there's a little meme, and it's like, if you put $500 aside when the kid is born, and then you do $250 a month, by the time they're 18, they already have like 200K. There's a whole statistic around it. It's like they have like 200K. By the time they're like 35, they have to, now you put that into a proper method that, again, Billy's shaking his head for a reason. You put that into a proper methodology with a policy behind it, and you got education funds, you got business startup funds by the time they're 25, 30 years old. Like, it's crazy that parents aren't doing that to children right when they're born. The cheapest insurance you'll get as well too. But anyways, this isn't an insurance class, but it is about to understand about policies, about assets, about the steps that you need to take to be financially responsible, understanding financial preparedness, and having a strong financial intentionality to really be able to move the needle in your financial world. So don't be swayed by just people that are saying, hey, this is how you can make more money. Hey, buy my new product because it'll give you a 10x return. This whole passive income. Hey, you want to make passive income? You want an FBA account with Amazon? Hey, you want a device that makes you money every single month? All that stuff, man. I'll tell you right now, don't be worried about passive income until you can hit a certain bracket of earned income. When you're paying so much tax and you understand, holy shit, I got to stop giving my money to the government, then wake up. Then wake up and be like, oh, okay, what other avenues can I do? Most of us are too spread out. I got a little mini business over here. I still work my job over here. Your bandwidth is being run. Your bandwidth is being run. Software is so important as well too when it comes to managing finances. Little tip that I give, you know, I use Quicken. I use obviously QuickBooks as well too. There's different softwares that you can use that can manage. You just plug your bank accounts in there. Just log into your bank accounts within the platform, and all of a sudden it's going to start giving you numbers. This is how much you made. This is how much you expensed out. It's going to even categorize it for you. Mint.com is a free software that you can use from the Inuit software basis as well too. Mint.com, mint.com. Great resource just to start off with if you're at the starting level. And then Quicken is if you're more at the advanced level and you really want to track different bank accounts, different asset classes, and be able to really start putting compiled net worth statements from a digital standpoint. And now even with AI, you can even do so much more, but I digress on that. Why I say this is that because, gentlemen, we are starting to adapt and understand the needs of what the Lions are looking for and what the Lions actually need in order to bring financial abundance and security and freedom to them. So inside of our community now, we are now going out and developing more and more content and curriculum and specifics on these live calls. Why I'm so focused on this live call, even though I had to miss an event earlier today, I was going to go to an event right before this call, and there's a bunch of MLB, NFL, NBA guys at this one event that I was invited to, but I wasn't feeling too well today anyways. My nose is a little clogged up before I fly out tomorrow. And I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to get on the call with the Lions because I like being live, gentlemen. This is why I want to open this up to Q&A. This is why I want you guys to understand that give me some feedback, ask questions, understand. We got experts in the room that can really be able to give you that advice that you need and be a part of the brotherhood. That's why in the community, we're bringing so much more value. But this community right now, I'll tell you right now, is $26 a month. We were with some school official guys. They were like, guys, what you guys are offering should be at $99 a month. They're selling $99 a month like hotcakes, and they're not even doing live calls. And I'm not saying this to compare and show, but like we are in a competition because we're trying to get to Las Vegas with Hermosi and win the school games because it's a very cool, innovative platform that he's now just spent $200 million on. So it's something to take seriously with 17 million users. It's growing. It's growing quickly. But gentlemen, Lions, my kings, thank you for being here on a powerful Thursday. Every single week we meet up here at 8 p.m. I cannot wait to see you next week on the Lions Den. 8 p.m. EST, baby. Let's go. Let's roar this week. Take care, gentlemen.
I'm going